MMA is normally a very unpredictable sport, but at times, things take strange twists and turns that nobody, not even the most knowledgeable of pundits, can see coming. In today's video, we have the most unexpected moments in UFC history just for you guys, so don't blink. Anderson Silva breaks his leg. Despite shocking the world by knocking out Anderson Silva at UFC 162, Chris Weidman didn't get the credit he deserved. He was the underdog in their rematch at UFC 168 as well, but he still managed to win in the most unexpected of ways possible. The first round of their rematch started with the two fighters feeling the range, with Weidman landing a kick and a jab before grabbing a hold of Silva's lead leg and momentarily putting him off balance. Silva popped right back up, but Weidman dropped him with a short right hand behind the ear and then proceeded to dominate him on the mat for the rest of round one. The second round was a lot slower in comparison. The first minute passed by with the two middleweights feeling each other out. Near the 1 minute mark, Weidman landed a thudding kick to the body, and Silva responded by throwing a hard leg kick, which Weidman checked.
It was a good shot to the body. Oh, nice. He checked it. He hurt his leg.
Silva's leg instantly snapped in half, and he fell to the canvas screaming in agony. The incident marked the end of the Brazilian's run at the top of the middleweight food chain. Conor McGregor knocks out Jose Aldo. Featherweight Conor McGregor was one of the greatest fighters of all time, if not the greatest. Not only did he change the game, but he also battered everyone on the path to securing the featherweight title, with his title victory coming against the greatest featherweight of all time, Jose Aldo. Now, the build-up to their fight at UFC 194 was insane, with the UFC putting together a world tour, where McGregor used his trash-talking to devastating effect, angering Aldo to such an extent that he lost his cool and ultimately the plot. Since Aldo had been supremely dominant in his featherweight run, chopping down some of the best fighters of his era with sheer dominance, he was expected to defeat McGregor, or at least give the fans an entertaining 5-round war. The fight, however, ended before it even started. Seconds into the first round, Aldo overextended, and McGregor found his chin with a clean left hook. The Brazilian crashed to the canvas in an instant, and McGregor landed a hammer fist to seal the deal in only 13 seconds to make everyone jump out of their seats. I mean, even after 8 years, everything about the glorious night in Las Vegas just seems so surreal. Nate Diaz submits Conor McGregor. Now, MMA is a very funny sport, and at times what goes around comes around. For instance, McGregor did the unthinkable by dispatching Aldo in only 13 seconds, and Nate Diaz did the unthinkable by defeating the Irishman against all odds. After securing the featherweight title, McGregor moved up to lightweight to fight the then-champion Rafael dos Anjos, but the Brazilian was injured, and in came the Stockton native as a late replacement. Diaz asked for a welterweight bout because he couldn't cut down to lightweight in a short period of time. McGregor agreed because more muscle meant greater power in his fists. Unfortunately, it also meant that he would gas out faster than usual. In the first round, McGregor battered Diaz, landing his left hook on Diaz's chin at will and dropping him twice. The Stockton native is a tough mother effer, however, and he took the shots on his chin and kept moving forward. In the second round, Diaz started opening up with his shots and stunned McGregor with clean combinations. An exhausted McGregor surprised everyone by shooting for the legs, but Diaz turned the fight on its head by taking his back and finishing the job with a rear naked choke. Everyone, bar Nate Diaz, was surprised. Forrest Griffin leaves the octagon before official decision. Now, fighters rushing out of the octagon in frustration after losing a closely contested decision is common in the sport. But fighters walking out of the cage before the results are announced? Well, now we're talking. At UFC 148, Forrest Griffin faced his arch rival Tito Ortiz in a rubber match. At the end of the 3-round battle, the UFC pioneer stormed out of the octagon before the judges could even render a verdict.
Forrest just walked right out of the octagon, Mike.
He was chased down by Dana White and told to quote-unquote fuck back in the cage. He eventually returned to the cage and was awarded the win by a unanimous decision. But his antics didn't end there. During the post-fight Octagon interview, he took the mic out of Joe Rogan's hand and then proceeded to do a lighthearted interview with Ortiz. It was Ortiz's final UFC fight, so Griffin probably wanted to give him a nice send-off.
Raised or Tito's hand raised. Do your interview and go, if you're bummed out, do it in the back, all right?
But all of it drove Dana crazy. But the fans, well, they were pretty entertained, since we don't get to see a lot of kooky stuff like that very often. Khabib Nurmagomedov ensues brawl at UFC 229. Khabib Nurmagomedov is usually a nice and respectful guy, but sometimes even nice guys lose their cool when provoked, and that is exactly what happened when Conor McGregor took a few personal jabs at him. Heading into their lightweight title fight at UFC 229, McGregor aimed seriously crude barbs at Nurmagomedov's way, dragging his religion, family, and his manager through the mud. McGregor's teammate Dylan Dennis also attacked the Eagle on social media. So when the two lightweights locked horns in the biggest pay-per-view event in UFC history, Khabib first smashed McGregor into a pulp and then choked him out in the fourth round. Before jumping off the cage to attack Dennis, kickstarting a brawl that had him suspended for months. Nobody saw that coming, not even Dana White. Petr Yan landing an illegal knee. While what Khabib did was bad, what his compatriot Petr Yan did was simply unexplainable. And one of the biggest brain farts in MMA history, Yan lost his title to Aljamain Sterling by disqualification in a fight that he was winning. The two bantamweights competed at UFC 259, where the American had a solid first round. He fought like he had a bus to catch, simply overwhelming Yan with sheer pace and aggression. But in trying to take the Russian out of the game quickly, Sterling gave up a lot of gas. Yan survived the onslaught and then took over by dominating Sterling from the second round onwards. In the fourth round, Yan was in cruise control and was 6 minutes away from defending his title. In the final minute of the round, however, he made a mistake that still haunts him to this day. Sterling was down on his knees when Yan decided to throw an illegal knee to his face, to the surprise of everyone who actually knew the rules.
His knee was down. Completely illegal knee.
Sterling went down immediately and refused to get up, and perhaps play acted a bit to win the fight and the title by a disqualification. What a bummer. Leon Edwards' Rocky moment. Now, Leon Edwards is the real-life Rocky, period. For years, he stayed under the radar and didn't get the credit that he deserved, despite putting together a solid run of victories that finally earned him a title shot at UFC 278, where he did what he said he would do. Now, being the dominant champion that he was, Usman was a sizable favorite heading into the fight. But Edwards proved to be tougher than what the odds suggested. The Brit made an instant impact in the first round by becoming the first man to take Usman down. But Usman made a comeback, winning rounds 2, 3, and 4 by mixing things up. The Nigerian won the first 4 minutes of the fifth round as well. But just as it looked as if he was on his way to another comfortable title defense, Edwards pulled a rabbit out of his magic hat, feinting with a right hand, and then murking the champion with a head kick to shock the world.
I mean, that is a dejected...
Pound for pound, headshot, dead. Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen won. Now, speaking of the greatest comebacks in UFC history, Anderson Silva's gritty submission victory against the undefeated and undisputed GOAT of MMA, Chael Sonnen, saved a lot of people from going bankrupt. When the two icons of combat sports met for the first time at UFC 117, Silva faced a lot of adversity, despite being on a dominant 12-fight win streak. Sonnen's All-American Wrestling gave Silva nightmares inside the octagon as the Oregon gangster secured a takedown in every single round, and then proceeded to dominate his opponent. For 23 minutes, Sonnen dominated Silva, and the American was just 2 minutes away from pulling off the biggest upset in UFC history. when he got a little clumsy in the guard and got caught in the spider's web.
His legs across. That's what's he's got it.
Who submitted him by a triangle choke to keep a hold of his belt? Barely. Matt Serra versus George St. Pierre. Matt Serra knocking out George St. Pierre to win the UFC welterweight title will forever be one of the greatest upsets in UFC history. Serra earned his shot at the welterweight championship after winning the Ultimate Fighter: The Comeback, which featured 16 former UFC fighters battling each other for a second chance in the promotion. Despite his success in TUF, Serra was a massive underdog, and nobody really gave him a chance against a younger and more talented fighter in GSP. St. Pierre started their title fight at UFC 69 aggressively, tagging Serra with leg kicks and jabs. But Serra fought back valiantly, throwing wild haymakers and low kicks to trouble the champion. The challenger's biggest moment came 3 minutes into the fight when he rocked the French-Canadian with a looping right hook and then proceeded to crush him with ground and pound to become the new champion. Now, if you say you saw that coming, you're lying. And that is it for today, folks. To watch more exciting videos on mixed martial arts, please subscribe to Athlete Central and turn on those notifications. Thank you.